por aí.
Sim.
Isto também vai ser à tarde. É que não durante o dia todo.
Sim, eu não tinha tudo. É só
Estou
para
com
esta
uma
sala.
workshop cheia à tarde.
Pronto.
Posso já pôr de uma hora da tarde, se calhar.
Sim.
Não sei.
Não há problema.
Este não é tal dele. Posso pôr aqui no ambiente?
Sim, é só mais fácil.
Exato. Depois PDF e forma, mas agora é
Se calhar não, o PDF só mais jeito.
Pois, estou no
Também
campo.
vou pôr porta, não tem problema.
Já está. Vocês vão dar para o PDF. Um ou outro. E como às vezes nas conferências o PowerPoint não funciona.
Pronto.
Pronto. Já estamos a ver assim. Se você dá para ver como são
Para já,
para ver se há além interessante. Porque aqui o primeiro é virtual. O segundo sou eu.
Ok.
O terceiro é ainda não chegou.
Ok.
E o último. Vamos verificar se está.
Acho que ainda não. Só estão 3, portanto.
Só tu este.
Sim.
Tu esperas um bocadinho.
Acho que sim.
Espera um bocadinho.
Bom dia.
Estou sempre aqui a ajudar.
Sim.
Sim, obrigada. Bom dia.
Bom dia, professor. A doutora Filomena não está.
Ainda não chegou.
Eu estou em apresentação da Alpina. Não, porque há uma questão. É que ela fez a descrição. Eu sei que ela está baixando para comunicar. Portanto, tem que ser presencial depois do mundo. Sim. Mas a minha está para apresentar?
Não. Final do primeiro. Não, ele vai ser presencial. Pronto. Quer dizer?
É para usar este computador?
Sim.
Aí já é um pouquinho.
Tem que ter a parte Eu apresento assim.
Porque eu mandei a apresentação para a Filomena primária. Não pus.
Стороны да?
Да.
Ну, тоже мы уже правильно вышли, да? С ромбе мы уже вышли правильно, да?
Espero que isto funcione.
Não me atendo, portanto, se quiser, vamos ali.
Осторожно, можем посмотреть, какой там первый доклад? Или это? Или я? Не закройте тут.
Posso tirar? Não tira isto, não?
Por mais baixo um bocadinho.
Vou tirar o som. Mas outros como eu consigo desligar o som aos participantes.
Pois, eu acho que para isso temos que ser
administradores.
Mas dá para reduzir um bocadinho.
Deixa eu dar. Bota o microfone ligado.
Pois.
Se gente ser. Bom dia. Ok. Está cansado?
Vim lá acima do hospital. Só uma pergunta, depois há aqui uma saída mais perto. Ok. Depois apanho um Uber lá acima que eu não consigo.
Não, aqui. Não pode ser pela parte de frente.
Parte de frente não.
É complexo. Vamos pedir Uber, então vai pela parte de frente.
Eu por cima pelo hospital, pela zona do hospital, pela escola de medicina. Depois venho tudo a descer agora.
Sim.
Eu não consigo ir ao frente, eu tenho uma perna. Eu tenho uma trombose na perna esquerda.
Você tem? Ah, tá.
Main.
Покажите мне, что свернуть, чтобы выйти из программы.
Deixa eu ver. Se quiser pôr já o som, talvez. Isto não tem problema.
Как, вот так вот свернуть?
Não percebi.
Ну, выйти назад.
Тяжело на крест.
Tirar.
Вот так. Рука и тянет.
Это что же? Certo. Pronto. É aqui.
Ok. Posso abrir? Quer alguma coisa?
Não precisa depois vou ter que ver. Isto é o quê? Demora 30 minutos? Máximo? A apresentação?
15 minutos e 5 minutos por perguntas.
Ah, ok.
Não é?
Tive que pôr a partilhar o ecrã.
Exato. Ok. Obrigada. Bem, vamos começar então?
Vamos lá ver se eu consigo abrir essa lista.
Ah, é? Ah, esteja à vontade. Cá-te deu. Vai correr bem.
Tem que ser eu a controlar ou você controlar?
Tem... Não, tem que ser se você fazer aqui.
Tem que ser eu a controlar. Ok.
So, good morning. We'll start this session with Diogo Ribeiro that will present the determinants of housing prices in Portugal and municipality level analysis. So, when you're ready.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Diogo.
I'm a teacher at math and senior data scientist at MySense in London. This work was done between me and other persons that are in the slide, mostly Aldina and Banda. The other one, the name is a student. And this work is based on the the idea was to focus on the house market. At the time, I think this was in 2021, 2022, already a problem. And we see today that it is increasing and increasing and increasing. That will be talked on the future works. So, why the question matters? Housing is not only a private asset, it's also a matter of public policies. We can't afford to have population without houses, creates people without shelter, and that creates social unrest. Also, the house market, it's a huge component of the GDP in any country. So a crash or a huge increase speculations on the house market will change the GDP, and sooner or later will create a lot of problems and affect GDP. It's what we have in Portugal and also in Ireland. Any shock on the house market will create unrest in credit markets. We are seeing a bubble now, and also public policies. Also, affordability is really, really important. So moving on. Now, this study focuses on national, regional, and metropolitan scale and municipalities. Now, the empirical contribution is full municipal coverage, the definition of the variables, one specific cross-sectional specification, or ordinary least squares baseline with a generalized least squares robustness check. Here we compare demand side with supply side, link local house prices to policy relevant variables, show why uniform policies instrument may underperform. Coverage. The year chosen was 2017. There is a reason for it. The aggregated data available, and this is extracted from Port Data, and the data available was only 2017. In future years, we can extract to 2021. It depends on the census in Portugal that is done every 10 years. The last one was 2021. Dependent variables, average value of property transactions, denoted as BMPT, modeled as log BMPT. Log prices, everyone knows why, but I will restate it. Coefficients can be interpreted approximately as a percentage effect, which is easier to economic discussions. The exploratory variables, blocks, territorial context, NUTS, the regions that Europe are organized on, household structure, labor market, demographics, environment, housing stock. Final specification, education is dropped because it's collinear with per capita purchase power. That's already stated across all literature that we know that purchase power is correlated with education. Sorry. Here, slowly. The baseline model is this one. The OLS baseline, it's a transparent estimation, direct coefficient interpretation. The adjusted R squared is 0.71, 71% of the variance is explained by the model. The GLS was used for after residual diagnosis, the checks was dependent on the errors assumptions, and the results from the GLS results closely track OLS. Now here the model diagnostics. The Brugge didn't show heteroscedasticity. Sorry, my English here is really poor. I worked with this 10 years ago. Shapiro-Wilk, the residuals normality was rejected. The autocorrelation motivated GLS re-estimation. Here we get the table, what survives. The dominant correlates are location, income, capacity, household composition, and the composition of the local housing stock. Geography and purchasing capacity. Note the regions are highly significant. This captures the heterogeneity of regions. We can compare with, for example, a region like Lisbon, the metropolitan area of Lisbon, against an interior region like Bragança. The prices are not formed in a homogeneous way across country. The purchase power has a positive and significant coefficient, and income capacity affects willingness and ability to pay. Demand side pressure is therefore visible at a municipal scale. Household composition and housing stock. The average family size is positive and significant. The housing stock is negative and significant. Of course, the number of houses available makes the price go up and down according to the number of houses available. Variables losing statistical strength in the joint specification, population density, environmental quality index, unemployment rate, aging index as conventional 5% result. The reading of this does not imply that these variables are irrelevant. It suggests that in this cross-sectional municipal model, their influence is likely absorbed by stronger proxies such as region, income, and housing stock. Policy implications. Obviously, we can't have the same policies in Lisbon or in the interior. Bear in mind with supply and target local constraints. So one policy advice for Portugal is the policies need to be designed according to their region. So a policy in Lisbon shouldn't be the same as a policy in interior or in Porto. Even Porto and Lisbon being almost the same. Limitations. This was only 1 year, 2017. There can be heterogeneity at municipal level. Spatial spillovers. I can give you an example. In dense areas like nearby, Povo de Varzim and Vila do Conde, it's a huge metropolitan area, but outside of that, 2 cities is rural, so the demand is completely different from inside the cities. Instead, they are different from, for example, the metropolitan area of Lisbon, where the housing is spread across all the metropolitan area, and in this not huge but medium cities, in a small difference of kilometers, the housing price really goes down. Now, future works. We need to collect more data for different years. Again, I didn't have the time for this. I expect in the next few coming months apply econometric models. Here it's parish level or transactional level data. It's really difficult. In Portugal, the collection of data is still small, and even in Europe, it's really difficult to compare it with the States, at least from what I've seen in the last few months in certain econometric models. Conclusions. Empirical conclusion. Housing at the municipal level are associated with region, purchase power, family size, and house stocking structure. Policy conclusions. The policy should be combined with demand side support with supply-aware local instruments. For example, creating more council-built housing. In Portugal, is around 2 to 3% of the current supply. Conclusion from this research is the model improves compatibility, but future work should move to panel, spatial, or transactional level data. And thank you. Any questions? I'm sorry, it's my first time.
For skipping the schedule. So, any questions? Not so much.
Yeah, good one.
Yes.
I arrived later, but I will do the article so I can remember something. And one question, only one question. Do you think that if the data had more detail, for example, for ICCSA,
Yeah. Yes.
it could have
Yeah.
more conclusive?
Yes. Problem. Here we collected the data from Portal. To have this access to that data, you need to do web scraping into websites like I don't remember any supplier of, but there is web sites on the web for Portugal that have the prices. So you need to constantly scrap it a long time, and it's really expensive. You need to have a robot to do that for a long time. It's not the storage, it's the robot that is expensive because it's a lambda working every 24 hours. And another problem is it will fail sooner or later because all the websites are updated, let's say 6 months, not the houses, but the structure of the website, and your robot is built on a fixed HTML, okay? And they will change it sooner or later. It's what they do to avoid robots. They are all the tools to defend that, but what they do normally, and that's a huge problem, even today with artificial intelligence, is to scrap this type of websites. I can say, for example, Moody's, the consultant company, for them it's a huge problem that they are trying to solve.
So they can work with the data.
Yeah, to extract this
Because
type
the
of
servers just have cuts in sense of the way it's collected. That's
Yeah.
the way that it was. Okay.
and if it is not continuously
Yes.
released,
I live in country, so, but it's very close to
Lisbon.
Lisboa. It's about 20 kilometers,
Yeah.
and the structure is so different because I live in a small village with
rural area.
yes, rural, completely rural. My neighbor have chips, and another have just articles and something like that. So it's very nice. And just about 10 kilometers, it's huge constructions and lots of buildings. So it's nice to see this difference, but maybe it's important so to that.
Yeah, it is.
That's why I say that the heterogeneity inside
Inside the same region, in the same metropolitan area, in this case, Lisbon, each area for the level of Portugal, It goes from almost Lehi, I think, south to Setúbal. And Filomena is talking about the interior of Setúbal, and the difference is you cross the bridge between Lisbon and the south, and you turn somewhere there on the left. It's just fields, and fields.
Yes, it's true.
And it's really small towns where it's just living people that do farming, and that housing is really cheap. It is cheap until a certain point, because a lot of people is moving
Yes.
outside of the
That's
cities
true. That's true.
to
Country.
countryside, because first the life is easier. It can become expensive in traveling, but it's easier. You have a supply of different type of products with better quality. The food is better, because it's better. You don't have pollution, you don't have the noise. You can control the education of your kids. The
It's
schools
better.
are way smaller. I can give an example that is nearby. Pilo de Cunha is also that type
Yes.
of city, because Porto around 2021 exploded with a lot of tourists and supply of individual housing for tourists. And what happened is most of the workers travel north. People like me that works remotely just move it. We don't care about this. We don't want to live in this stressful life in big cities. So we move, and we can move. So, for example, I can say to you that a house with property with 1,000 square meters in Bilbao at the moment can be around 1 million.
Yeah.
And you go up to the Camino, that is almost to Spain, you can get the same property for around 1,000 euros.
That's true.
With better quality, with not in the middle of a city, with huge forests around. Okay. Any other questions?
No. So next time, thank you.
I will forward you this presentation,
Okay, thank you.
and I can forward also the question and answers that I have here in extra.
Okay, and I think you should be not online in sense of your fee.
Sorry.
You have asked me.
Yes, but
I think you should not be online in sense of your fee. I think something is not.
that doesn't matter. I
You
didn't
are
have
here.
access
And you
to.
are here, so
Yes, I solved the problem.
just to solve that question that we have done, which I didn't know, and I was checking. So next speaker is Paula Simões, and she is talking about the influence of fatigue on decision making in a military context. Let's hear this presentation.
So, good morning. This work was developed by my master student, Francisco Abreu, that is now a second lieutenant, and in collaboration with Professor Nuno Almeida, that is from the field of exercise physiology, and the Colonel Renato Santos, that is the psychology area, and jointly with the Colonel Lucena, that is in charge of the military training in the Portuguese Army, and me that contributed the data analysis and statistical area. So, in terms of outline, I will start with a brief introduction, then I will talk a little bit about the decision-making process versus the fatigue, then the methodology that we are taken and the experimental protocols with the construction of some decision-making indicators to do the research, and then some conclusions of the work. So as an introduction, the decision-making is fundamental to the success of military operations. The military personnel are exposed to high physiological demands during operations, and they identify a research gap in the military context, that is the absence of studies that relate fatigue and decision making, but using objective quantification methods. So we need to integrate the physiological indicators and the cognitive tests to go to the object. And the general object of this work was to analyze the influence of fatigue on decision making in a military context in order to optimize operational performance in demanding contexts. Then we design some specific objectives. We want to identify the physiological impact in a load march in the military personnel. We also want to determine whether fatigue influenced the speed of military decision making and assess if it also affects the quality of the decisions. So moving to the decision making process, it starts with assessment of environmental factors. Then we want to move to the identification of the problem and its possible solutions with a systematic analysis of the alternatives. And in the final, we want to inform the selection of the most suitable options and take a decision. So the cognitive skills are fundamental for processing information, evaluation alternatives, and choosing options in the decision-making process. And it's also a strong indicator of military performance in this field. Some examples are the thinking speed, cognitive flexibility, the critical reasoning, and the memory. They are also important to the decision-making process. In the military context, the decision-making process determines the mission's success, and they have high physical and physiological demand. The decision-making have two stages. We have the analytical process, there is structural, logical, and deliberate, and the intuitive process, that is fast, based on commander's experience. Usually we want to combine the both, but the intuitive process is in combat. So, fatigue is identified as a multidimensional phenomenon because in terms of the physical part, in terms of the temporal and muscular limitation, the mental part reduces attention, memory, and motivation, and the physical fatigue aggravates mental fatigue, compromising the reaction in time and cognitive performance. In the military context, they have extreme demands, so we combine the physical and the mental fatigue with some factors that are the prolonged exertion, the sleep deprivation, adverse condition, and operational stress that have a significant impact in the cognitive skills of the militaries. So we start to link the military marches to induce the fatigue process because they are a fundamental capability and they have high physical demand. So in the military marches, we collect the physical load indicators in terms of an internal training load by the measure of the heart rate reserve and the summated heart rate that contributes to adverse training impulse to define the intensity zones of the march and then induce the fatigue in the militaries to evaluate the cognitive skills. And we divide the impact of this fatigue into areas, the decision time they have, because it increases reaction and time, and they have slower decisions, and the quality of the decision they have, because it reduces accuracy and reduces the cognitive skills. So we developed a methodology that we want to answer a general question that was, what is the influence of fatigue in the decision-making in a military environment? And some specific questions that we want to address, like the physiological impact of the load mesh in the military personnel, and what does fatigue affect the speed decision-making and the quality of the decisions. So, okay. We develop a quantitative approach and inductive research method. The student done the literature review, combined descriptive and inferential statistical methods, and a sample of 36 students of the fourth year from the Portuguese Military Academy was selected. They have, for example, a mean age of 23 years, a mean weight of 78 kilograms. The height they have between 1.55 and 1.92 meters. And each participant was controlled and performed a load march protocol with carrying 30 kilos during the 8 kilometers. And then we monitor the heart rate with the polar GAR-10 sensor. This is this sensor here, where they perform the march with that sensor. And we can calculate the percentage of heart reserve, rate reserved, and calculate the summated heart reserve. Then each one of the students done the RP30 test protocol. That is a problem-solving test, an instrument designed to assess cognitive speed and flexibility. This was the part where the psychologist choose the test. This test is very wide known in that area. It consists in 30 problems, 70 minutes, and they can evaluate the speed, cognitive flexibility, reasoning, and memory. And we want to compare this test under a fatigue condition induced by the military march and in a rest condition. So they done the test in the first moment after the 8 kilometers, the load march, and in another moment they do the test without fatigue in the resting moment. So in this step, we combining the physiological indicators and the cognitive performance data, it is possible to assess in a controlled manner the effects of fatigue in decision making in terms of speed and quality of the decisions. So, in terms of the internal load analysis, we estimate the internal load based on the physiological response to exertion. We have here the intensity zones that are distributed during the load march. We can conclude that 50% was spent in the zone 4 and 32% was spent in the zone 5. So they are associated with the high intensity zones of the load march. Just 30% was in the zone 3 and a little 5% with the 1 and 2 zones. They also monitoring the percentage of heart rate reserve, and each box plot illustrates the inter-individual variation in each minute of the march, making it possible to follow the evaluation of the intensity throughout the exercise to induce the fatigue condition. And there is a tendency of the percentage of heart rate reserve to stabilize in high values during most of walk, reflecting the maintenance of a consistent exertion. So we also define two indicators, the decision-making speed index that relates the median response of value obtained in the test with the maximum number of responses that is possible to obtain. And in the performance index, we related the mean score obtained in the test with the maximum possible score that was 71. In terms of speed, with fatigue, the students have 25 medium response, and without, and with fatigue, they have 20 response. Significant different results from the test provide depending to the experimental protocols, with the induced fatigue and without. And in terms of the speed index, we denote that 23% reduction in the performance with the two conditions. Moving to the quality, with the experimental protocols without fatigue, they have a 39 mean score in the test, and with the fatigue condition, they reveal a 28 score in the test. So we are also identify lower under fatigue than the not fatigue condition. And when we move to the index without fatigue and with fatigue, we compare and we have a 50% reduction in the quality of the decisions. In terms of some conclusions, for the first question that they put, what is the physiological impact of the load march on the military personnel? We can say that the mean values obtained with the Edwards sum heart rate method associated with the minimum cardiovascular intensity confirm that the load march induces the fatigue, so we can take conclusions from that. The temporal analysis of the effort revealed 82% of total duration was spent in the zones 4 and 5, that are high physiological load intensity zones. And according to NATO, these values correspond to intense physiological loads. So the load march was effective in inducing fatigue in conditions representative of the military activity on the ground, created an appropriate context. So when we go to the other questions, does fatigue affect the speed? We can say that the decision-making index decreased, so fatigue negatively affected the speed of the decision-making, reducing military personnel's ability to quickly process information under pressure. And in terms of the quality, the fatigue was also an impact in the cognitive process underlying the decision-making, with the loss of 15% points. So, in general, we can say the fatigue has been shown to exert a significant negative influence. The physiological indicators confirm the induction of high load, ensuring the validity of the fatigue, and in a constant of decrease was observed in both speed and quality of the decision making. At the same time, there was a degradation in higher cognitive functions, namely attention, memory, reasoning, showing that fatigue critical compromised the effectiveness of the decision making in an induced military environment. We have, in terms of contribution, we can fill the gap of the military research that is integrate the physiological and cognitive indicators, develop two indexes to quantify the speed and the quality of the decision-making process, and identify practical implications with potential contribution to the development of more resilient and effective forces. Some limitations: the sample all are exclusively male military personnel. That was a methodology decision before start the experimental protocols to ensure the homogeneity of the sample. Some recommendations is do this work include the female military personnel and explore the progressive effects of physiological fatigue in decision making. So it's the main reference, and thank you for attention. Technologies and the email.
The question?
See? Yes?
Okay, thank you. This is a very good presentation. I think it how to reach the goal of the military is to get the endurance versus the decision in the extreme conditions.
Yes.
Yes. So I saw from your presentation that before and after the fatigue conditions, we have a wide range of the maximum and minimum, like +1 and +2. And in this case, should be we have uncertainty during the process, and I don't know. You have a specific condition, for example, let's say the same weight, the same height or something, so can be affected to the endurance of the persons or affected to the psychology.
Calling information.
Yes, cognitive and others. So, can't you define of the uncertainty during the measurements, because will be the control of your score performance index.
The,
The uncertainties.
this,
Yes.
the score?
Yes.
This is
the score. So, yes.
We
So,
want to measure somehow the quality, because the physiological tests,
mm,
they have a DP score, but the maximum that you can have is 71. It's here. So this is the maximum possible score that they can have, and we relate the mean score of the students under fatigue and in a rest condition. And this index is just to compare the two of them in terms of the percentage, because this test has specific conditions in the physiological health. So it's just the first time this is done with these students. We take a protocol, induce the fatigue in the students, then do the tests, the physiological, psychological tests, and then we want to measure somehow before and after. And because of this, because the responses, the maximum is 30, and the score the maximum is 71. So we use this technique to compare before and after. This is the first time we compare any more work with that.
I 71.
The psychologist
Oh, right.
is
So
the
it's not with you.
no. I can ask them.
Because
It's a test.
around.
No.
yes.
It's a very known test in the physiology, psychology part, but I didn't know. The colonel said it was the best, and
70.
there are 30 problems with different designs and accounts and so on.
Thank you. Can I ask just
Yes.
one question? Thank you for your presentation. I was wondering this study, the importance of this study is just within students, or this is
No, it's all the military person, but we have used the students to induce in them the fatigue condition that represents some operation theater in the mission. But we
the
cannot,
importance is the real
yes,
life.
but we cannot use the militaries that are in the mission and we use the students to
So
induce them.
there are other students, other studies
This
within
is,
real life.
no, we have done some little studies with the person who had returned from the mission, but it's not,
It's not the same.
no.
Because the fatigue that they are going to be subjected to
Because
fatigue
before
in
they go to the mission, they are training to go to the mission, and we are not allowed to do experimental protocols. When they come back, the physiological part, they are not very good, and they don't accept to participate in this. The more difficult part is to military person that go and come back from the missions. They don't accept to do these tests. So we use the students.
Okay, so basically this study is saying that when you have fatigue, then you have more trouble in the study.
Yes, we want to, the Colonel Lucena, that is in charge of this section, he wants to have, to use a sensor, that sensor, and we put in the military that they are under his command, and he wants to, using these indicators of that military, without, he knows why, to can decide if he can continue in the mission or he can go back. But without just with the sensor. You put that in the ballistic collet in the.
I understand, and I also understand that the results of this study, the militaries might not want them to be published just because of a kind of, they know that if they are going to be subjected to fatigue, maybe they are not going to be able to decide.
No,
Something like
the military in the mission, they never said that they are exhausted or they are never. So the mission of the colonel is he wants to have manners without ask
to assess.
to decide if he has to take, because when they are in an extreme level, they go out and there is no more solution.
Very interesting. Thank you.
So thank you very much.
So let's thank again. Next speaker is not here. It should be Teresa Oliveira, but she had a severe problem with her daughter-in-law because she's pregnant and the contraction started before what was expected, but really much time before. So she could be here. I have no presentation, but I'm a co-author. So I will speak about this work at the end.
Okay.
And so we'll call Ola,
Sorry.
please. I call Ola Shustchenko, sorry, let me say correctly if possible. Because I'm not the perfect person to
Olga
spell.
Sushchenko, can I present my report? Yes?
Yes, you are talking about research on the gimbal inertial navigation system based on mathematical description of platform motion. Please, you can start, please.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, you can upload and start. Thank you very much.
Поделиться? Допустим. Can you see my presentation?
Yes.
Yes, you can.
I represent Kiev Aviation Institute, State University, Kiev Aviation Institute, Ukraine. Nowadays, strap-down inertial navigation systems are widespread, but gimbal inertial navigation systems remains indispensable for high-precision applications. Standard navigation algorithms ignore complex spatial movements of the platform that lead to errors. The research presents a mathematical description of the dynamic of the platform, which takes into account all three degrees of freedom, and the mutual influence of the gimbal axis. The goal is to increase the accuracy of gimbal inertial navigation systems and, respectively, of determining the coordinates and course of moving objects in stochastic conditions by algorithmic means. The creation of a complete mathematical description of stabilization systems and the determinant of the course of dynamic objects will require the release of key tasks. It's necessary to take into account the presence of a large number of operating modes, which are differentiated by different features. It's important to take into account the structure of the platform on which the navigation information sensors are placed. For this purpose, it's necessary to create the models of the platform's dynamics and the necessary kinematic relationships. It's necessary to consider the modeling and monitoring of the navigation and stabilization contours of the system. The mathematical description must include models of electronic devices. To solve the most significant problems, it's recommended to combine modeling of linear and nonlinear systems. A complete mathematical model of the system of stabilization and cause and attitude determination is a set of mathematical models that describe the operation of the system in the main mode, such as previous leveling to the horizon, accelerated setting to the horizon, modes of accurate alignment to the horizon, gyro compass mode, and gyro azimuth mode. The models differ by set of devices and controls. For example, in the mode of precise adjustment to the horizon, The mathematical model consists of the model of dynamics and kinematics of the platform, the gyro vertical based on the gyroscope with dynamic tuning, as well as the pendulum accelerometers. The motion of platform is studied based on kinematic scheme. You can see this scheme on the slide. There are some reference frames here connected with object or with carrier on which now a system is installed and with the platform. The theoretical found is theorem of change of angular momentum. So it shows it's necessary to denote kinetic moments, angular rates. Of course, these complex expressions are represented in the paper, and I want to demonstrate you one finite result, equation of platform motion relative to the own axis. And of course, if we go, expressions for angular rates determining are of great importance. These expressions have two components, and next slide show us first component and another projection on all three axes of navigation system. You see that this expression have many details. We can into consideration speed of the Earth's motion, geographical latitude, principal radius of curvature of the Earth's ellipsoid, and another radius in the meridional plane. Eccentricity is taken into account. And now you can see an example of one of the models for the mode of the determinant the course. You can see that three first equations describe dynamic of the platform. Three next equations describe kinematic of the platform, and next two equations represent motion of dynamical tunal gyroscope as a gyro vertical. Next two equations, dynamical tuned gyroscope as an azimuth gyro, and two last equations represent equations of the accelerometers. So you can see that the model is sufficiently complex, and every mode of the system has different models with different components. For example, for the mode of previous stabilization, we can use only equations for dynamic of platforms, kinematic of platforms, and two expressions of the accelerometers. To develop a computational algorithm for parametric optimization, of course, these models are necessary to carry out parametric optimization of the stabilization navigation system. It's necessary to take into account specific characteristics. The system is a second-order static system that necessitates performing the minimum realization before optimizing the parameters. Elements of the state matrix differ by approximately 3 orders of magnitude. Given this, it's advisable to use a balanced implementation of the model. As parameters to be optimized, it's advisable to choose the transfer coefficients that determine the control loss. The parametric optimization process implemented in 2 stages. The first stage involves the direct implementation of parameter optimization using such methods as control system box of system MATLAB. And second stage involves the verification of the obtained results. This second stage namely used developed nonlinear models taking into consideration complex motion of the gimbaled platform. And such modeling is carried out in Simulink of the same MATLAB system. Here you can see the optimization criterion. The system is robust. This is achieved by combination of 2 and infinity norms of the studied system. And of course, the necessary element of the objective function is a penalty function, which ensures fulfillment of a system stability conditions at the time of the optimization procedure. Our goal is to determine vector of optimized parameters k. This vector k determines parameters of control law of the system. And now you can see results of modeling. A pulse valve mix modulator, calculator unit, transient process of changing angle of deviation for the horizontal plane and a perturbed non-optimized system. And optimized system is near this graph shown. Transient process of precise leveling you can see in this slide. The main achievement is taken into consideration the gimbal platform's motion and the mathematical description of the gimbal navigation system. This leads to sufficient improvement of the platform stabilization and hence navigation accuracy. The obtained results can be useful for the creation of control systems in many areas of application of moving objects, including aerial, marine, and ground valves. Nevertheless, the main contribution of the obtained results can be achieved for the development of precision navigation systems. Finally, it's possible to represent the following conclusions. The mathematical description of the kinematics of the gimbal inertial navigation system is presented. The coordinate systems for the platform's motion are given. Expressions of the platform's angular rate are derived. The features of the parametric optimization of motion control system resistant to internal and external disturbances are generalized and described. The modeling results taken into consideration different aspects of the multi-mode Gilbert inertial navigation systems are given. The future work will be connected with a semiotical description of the gimbal system assigned to the stabilization of the observation equipment mounted on moving objects operated in difficult disturbed conditions. Manner it that stabilization for in navigation system and stabilization assigned for equipment, for proper operation of equipment of moving object, have some differences which must be taken into consideration in next work. Thank you for your attention.
Any question? So I think let's thank again. Thank you, Howard. I think that's all. Thank you for your participation.
So I must close your presentation, yes?
Okay, thank you. I'm talking now about a novel. I'm going to put my presentation. Presentation of the article. Presentation. It's a preview. Está ali, já podes abrir? Já percebi, eles veem também, está ali, abre só ali. Já está aqui. É que diz ICCSA. ICCSA 2016. Deixa-me ver. Deixa-me ver só eu digo. Eu vou desenrascar, que remédio tenho eu? So, I will talk about something that should be Teresa, the first author, but I will open, ok. Consegue-se ver? Está bem, eu vou fazer isso já, deixa-me só abrir outro. Pronto, que isto são outras coisas que eu tenho e que vão ser precisas. Agora vou só aqui à procura, deve ser este. Bem, eu não sei onde é que estou. Eu sei. Não sei. Vou abrir o apontador. Não, este é esse. Ok, já está, é este. E agora como é que eu tenho? Fecho isto. Realmente aqui, é só isso? Já está aplicado. E se não tiver? This is the article that was pretended to be the presentation, but Teresa, it's not here, so I will talk about this topic, not as well as she, because she is a splendid talker, me not about this topic. We are talking about an ANOVA one factor. This is a very simple thing. This is the abstract. The abstract just say that we are talking about ANOVA. That's a tool that it's excellent in biometrics. Of course it is. If we think that we have lots of factors, for example, if certain medicine works or not, the kind of influence. For example, we have certain active principles, and we need to see, for example, if it depends the effects of that they can produce in the gender of certain people, or it's just an example. Of biometrics, we can see in city A, B, C, or D the kind of pollution. It's like a good tool, an extra tool for everything that we call and classify as factor. We can have an of one, an of two factors, etc. And we can also classify this kind of tables in different ways, if they are equilibrated or not equilibrated, etc. This article, it's not properly, I think they did not correct our proposals, but I can say that that's the structure of the data. It's not. We are talking about models of this kind of structure. Basically, we have one model that oscillates. That this is kind of structure of our models. We suppose that this random error depends as a Gaussian behavior. Nu, it's the global mean, and this tau e, it's the effect. It depends the level of our factor. The level of the factor we call treatment. So that kind of language, it's usual, but treatment doesn't mean that it's really a medicine, can be another thing, but that's each level of factor we call treatment. And the tau e, it's the effect of the level E of the factor. So we are just saying that we are working with a model like this. That this is our specification of the model. We think that the epsilon EJ have, or we suppose that as a normal distribution. So when we estimate this model, we need to, previous to estimation, to validate the model. To validate this means a lot of things, namely to see if the mean of the error is zero, if it has to test if you have any correlation, any heteroscedasticity, etc. All tests that we need to do in sense of validation if the error has the correct behavior. The first thing to do, it's a simple box plot, for example, to see if it's more or less equilibrated and it's compatible with normal distribution. This is the first step after we get the model. That here we have exactly what I have to specify. Epsilon EJ, the random variable, represents our reaction to something. Nu, the global mean, tau e, the single parameter for treatment designed by defect, and the epsilon, the random error. We think that if we have this kind of model with this kind of specification, we say that these ANOVAs are, or this kind of models are fixed, have fixed effects, and if this new, it's not fixed, it depends more than this, that if the model is not this, we say that it's a random model. Here it's the table, it's more or less, it's like this. This is our data, it's like this. It's usual to calculate the sum of these to have, or the mean of each column. That's the same thing. Let's see more or less than this. One important thing, these effects are the effects of each treatment, each level of the factor. It's how much it differs from the global mean, and the sum of these effects is 0. That's important. One notation that we have is this. This point means that I have our sum, it was in J. This means that I've made the sum in I and J. That's important to know this. This is the usual notation to talk with the article, not with the presentation. It's worst, but what we need to know after all validation of the errors, that as they should have normal behavior, that we can perform some tests. One important test is if each level of our factor have the same effect or have different effects. It's important. Why? Because we need to know if that factor or the thing that promotes that has significant, it's important or not. Because if all effects are equal, we don't need that kind of thing, or we don't need study. Everything is equal. We have some notations here. It's important to see this. Note that to see if the means of all effects it's equal, it's the same that the effects are 0. Okay? How we can test this? We can test this in a lots of ways. We can use the F distribution. Also, it's here more. Sorry. It's a lot of things. This equality, it's known as the sum of total of squares. It's the sum of the random square sum of the error, the square of the error, more the sum of the squares estimated by the model. We can put this equality. I'm used to another, and here are the number of degrees, the freedom degrees. I'm going now. Notice here that we know that we are summing the squares of normals. The sum of squares of normals are chi squares, and the quotients of the chi squares corrected by the degree of freedom are f's. That's why we can use the f's to test what it's. So we can construct here. The table is cut. We asked to correct this, but they just maintained. So our table, the most important table for a nav is to construct this, but okay, we accept. Basically, we are here calculating the f's using sum of squares, and the first line is relative to the difference between the samples, the residual, and the total. And with this kind of information, you can construct all important inference. Here we are saying that our table or our ANOVA is balanced. It means that all samples have the same size. For example, for the first level of the factor, we have given for example, 10 people a certain medicine, equivalent or not for the second group of 10 people, and so on. So fixing the size of the samples for each level of the factor. Okay. So I'm going to change this. I don't to this. It's in Portuguese, but I can show better what I mean. Sorry, but e agora como é que eu ponho isto mais aqui embaixo? Como é que eu ponho isto? Espera. Não, regressão linear não quero, somentinho. These are texts that I have performed some time ago, but I'm talking about ANOVAs. Notice that what I've said before, I only go to see the kind of analysis that we can do with ANOVAs. The first thing that we can do is to display the data for each group of the levels of the factors. You can see, identifying here, we can see clearly that each group have different behaviors, and means that's the median, that's their bar inside each almost rectangles. We can see that maybe there is some difference in mean between the treatments. Here it's the model, it's the same. We are supposing that that's epsilon are 0. Okay, I'm just putting here WES. Also, you can perform some estimation for that means are the usual interval of confidence using the T's. We can do that usually. I'm not explaining nothing. We can also estimate the effects. Here, the effects are the difference between the global mean estimate and the estimate of the mean in the group of each treatment. Here are the interval of confidence for each mean. We can see here. And we can plot these intervals and see if there is any intersection between them. That's easy. And there is something that I still didn't do. It's to talk about the F. It's here. It's in Portuguese, but it's the same thing. I just want to show the complete. Here it's the complete table. It's more simple to see here. We have the sum of the squares of the treatments. You have the sum of squares of the error and the total sum of squares. That's more easy to complete this. Here it's not in R, it's in MATLAB, but it's the same thing. The diagnostics of the model, it's to analyze if everything is okay. Test Bartlett just to evaluate if the variance in each group are equal or are different. analysis of the contrast. The contrast is some combination of its mean whose coefficients sums 0. So we can compare two means, and it's means 1 plus 1, or a lot of means, if we are interested in that, since the coefficients sums 0. Okay? And in this sense, we have this. We can do this. Okay? For that, it's missing one important thing, the Takei and the Tsufe. These two tests are different from the tests of T. The tests of T allow us to compare two means. The Takei allows, and Tsufe allows to compare a set of means whose coefficients sums 0, but it's simultaneously. It's important. It's not a pair after another pair. It's simultaneously. And if it's simultaneously, it's more important. It gives us the sense differently. It's just more things. I'm not giving the. So, okay, thank you. I just think this graph, I think that R doesn't give this, but what is this? I think it's important because we can see the difference of the means, the interval that the Takei, I don't know if it's Takei, yes, it's Takei. And we can see the difference between them. This is the interval of confidence, and we can see if they intersect or not. This graph that is here, it's dynamic, so we can just, it's here, it's a figure, but we can just see if they intersect or not. I think this output is not in R, but this in MATLAB, it's important. Here it's another example. I have lots of examples here, and I just end here because it's time. It's not perfect presentation, but it was enough to the moment. In 10 minutes, it's not. I can explain a lot of things about the novel, but okay.
So thanks. And you can sit down.
Just this. Fez tudo, não fez? Eu só fechei as guias, é isso. Agora, vamos ao lanche, não é? Agora eu não sei qual é a minha. Pronto.
Pronto, queres colocar?
Não tirei. Não.
Ok.
Vê lá se pus. Acho que não. Tiraste alguma para aqui só disto. Gostaste de ter falado de novas?
Sim.
Está bem. Olha aqui. Mas eles estão aqui. Não. Se tu clicares aqui, eles já não dá. Acho eu.
Yeah.
Não vou deixar assim. Tu também não vou, não. Deve ter.
Eu acho que consegui.
Procura dela, deve estar, não está aí aqui. Ela tem que ter reciclagem.
Eu vou ela vai para a reciclagem, ela vai para lá. Ou vocês, por exemplo, isso. Aqui. Não, isto está na internet. Isto não está aqui. Pois é. Mas pronto, olha, paciência. Se tentar procurar isso.
Esta mala é tua?
Não é? Obrigada. Mas depois não. Vou tentar.
Não é? Yes, acho que eu vi. Não, não é mais. Vamos quatro aqui. Não há? Agora só aqui. Não, agora é para uma mais.
Não sei, é que eu estava a ver.
A apresentação acho que só levar.
We have the same season for the next.
Sorry?
We have the same time for the next season. Yeah. Okay, afterwards.
Alguém faz os slides. Eu fiz as últimas, aquelas folhas.
Mas era melhor.
Mas páginas, não tem nada de bolsa, precisa, não é? Nada. Isso é o que tu dizes. Não sejas mal, foi sentado.
Sim.
Não apresentei. Eu queria mostrar, não é isso. Era preciso. Eu estava a ver que era com isso, não fizer. As fases eu